Okay, let's start with events. And what do you know about events?
Sorry, you push on stop.
No, it's recording now. It's just this is
The button becomes stop when you press start.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, what do you know about events? Do you know something about events?
No.
Not at all.
Has this word been mentioned in
No,
not
what
at
it
all,
is,
right?
No.
we know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Events like on click.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you guys used on-click or something like that?
Yeah.
Has
it been taught or you've just used it anywhere?
But event is not a functionality that you write down. An event can be a console log, a log.
No, it's a different kind of events. There are some certain events, and on click is one of them. If you view a button, that's what event listener. Yeah. So there's a lot of events, and this is not a good list.
Is the other link?
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most common categories. And if you go through this list, you'll see a lot of events. For instance, you'll see offline network status. You'll get an event, and then you can run some code when that event happens, and then run some other code when offline happens. So there's a ton of events in the browser. You can get an
on the internet, and maybe like you get to go to the how to write a password and something pops up and tells you it needs to be like 6 characters, 6 of the characters with this. Is that what you're doing?
It happens when you click submit. So the code is executed because you clicked submit, and then some code is executed, and that is the event handler. So that is an event, and that's one of the events that I can find here, form events, and it says here the submit button is pressed. You will also have a reset event, or reset a reset event that resets the form. And you have, if we go to mouse, we have a lot of mouse events also, and click is a mouse event. Click is fired not just when there's a mouse event. It can be fired. It's fired also in other situations. It's called the pointing device. But if you have a mouse, you can make mouse over, and there's mouse enter and over, and we won't go into detail about that because it's difficult to get your head around. But mouse down and mouse up and mouse click seems strange. But the usual pattern is that mouse down is fired when you press down the mouse button, and then up is fired when you release it, and then click is fired. So you'll get a lot of different events, and you just have to pick a certain way to do it and then ignore all other events. Okay?
Can somebody get an idea of like why like mouse down and mouse up and click might need to be separate events?
Ask again, please.
Like, so there are 3 events, like mouse down, mouse up, and then the click event. Why do we need 3 different events, for example?
They are different.
That's because if you have
Yeah, but how does it help?
Why we do
Like
need
it's more specific, like
Like, is there a use of this specificity that you can suggest, for example?
because for example, some pages you have to press on the button for more than seconds to activate. But that's why you need 3 events, because if you make each one of them like activates on a certain amount of time, then you can have multiple.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very old use case. You usually don't get like the long press, anymore. But there's still like a lot of gestures like drag and drop. If you think you have to click, hold the click, and you do things, and then you release it. right? And it's actually you're not clicking it. You're doing down and up without it being really a click event because you managed to move and do something in between. So there's even in the like web level, there's a lot of use. Or if you're scrolling, like if you're doing something like a timeline kind of thing, for example, you need discrete control over that as well. So
Okay, so I'll go into, well, there's a lot of stuff here. Where's all this? Oh, sorry. Okay, now I'm there, I think. Okay, so I will show you an exercise just after I've explained what callbacks are. Can it like this? Okay, and I'll just okay. So callbacks, you already know callbacks. You used them a lot of times. And let's just go through. It also called an event handler because it handles the event. So when the event happens, we say it fires, and an event is fired, and then the event handler is run. And the event handler is something you write, and it has to be a function because the code will be executed some later time. So you write a function, and that is your event handler, and it might be executed once. For instance, there's an event when the browser loads the content. It fires a load event, and that's just fired once. And there's an unload event. Yeah, it's called before unload or something like that. So they're only called once, but you can also have a click event for a button called many times, or you can have a timeout event. And that's called, for instance, either in an interval every 1 second or in 5 seconds or whatever time you want it to be. So, and also the filter and map methods, you give them a function, and that is simply just that's a callback because it will be called at a later time. Okay, and I think that's what you need to know about callbacks. And then the rest of you learning events and callbacks is practice, because it's hard to get your head around, and we'll do this pretty much the rest of the day. So I will start to show you an example, the exercise 1 up there, where I create a button with click up. I don't know why it's click up. Count up. I can't read. Okay, and when the button is clicked, it will print 0 the first time, and then 1 and 2 and 3, and just increment. So it's a very simple task, and when I've done it, I would like to see you do it afterwards, just because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Okay, so I will start by making a button in my HTML page. Like this. And we'll get a title. And stop me if there's something that you don't understand or you have a question.
Yeah, so don't try and do the exercise right now. Just pay attention and then do it on your own. We'll give you time for that.
What is type button?
Text.
Text? Value. Yeah. Okay. And there's several ways you can attach an event to this. You could either write it here. Maybe I should show that. Click. And then you can do something in here. And in here you'll write some JS code. And for instance, we can do the most simple thing to pop up a number. And if I press the button, let's close this. It pops up the number. Very simple, and if I do it again, it does. I'll have to zoom this out.
Okay. Yeah.
like this. Okay, so this is one way to do it, and sometimes you'll do it because it's very easy and you don't have to go into your JavaScript function and create stuff, and create a function. And if you just want to make something simple and quick, you can do it this way. But usually this is very hard to maintain and understand. So usually you'll just say, if you could keep doing this way, you'll say, okay, let's make a function in our JavaScript file that we call handle click, like this. Then when the event fires, this function is called. So you have almost no code, JavaScript code in your HTML file. Yeah, so you'll have to go into your JavaScript file here, create a function, and then we can, from in here, we can alert a new message, like this. And when you click, it will pop. So now we can have a lot of complicated code in our JavaScript file without cluttering up the HTML file. There is even another method to do it, because you might not have the option to create this input. You might just have an HTML file and you're told to create a click handler, and you cannot change the HTML file. In that case, that's the third method. If you can get a handle to this input tag or HTML tag, then you can actually create a click handler in your JavaScript, and that might be that has some further good things, because you can add more than one click handler. Here you actually can only handle one. If you have one click, you can say one function. So that's a very limited use case. Maybe you want 2 click handlers. So we'll give this button an ID. We'll call it button 1, and then from our JavaScript we'll remove this. Just make it a console instead, so we can see that this code is executed. And we want to attach a click handler. So first we need to get a reference to this input button, to the button. And do you remember how to do that?
Document
Get element by element.
Yep.
get element by ID.
And it suggests this here, so it's very easy. And the ID was button 1, right?
Yeah.
You have to call the function.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't. Okay, so now we have a button, and we can. The function you need to know is
Click.
actually it's called something else. I don't think it's called onClick. Actually, it is, but I'll use another one because I do that. I'll call it event listener. Add event listener. Actually, I think you could do either way. I'm not sure what the benefits are. Oops. Okay. And in this add event listener, let's do it this way. It takes 2 parameters. Maybe I can get this to say it. The first one is a little difficult to see because there's a lot of listener. Type any. Okay, this is what's important. I can. The first is a HTML element, and the second is that's wrong.
That's the callback of the listener. So it takes a type
okay.
and is the event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just that wasn't helpful. Okay, so I'll just say what you need to supply. You need to supply the type of event you want to listen to and the handler. Okay, and the type of event we want to listen to is click. And one thing to be aware of here, it's not on-click. It's not like this. You saw in HTML it was like on-click here, right? But when you do it in here, in the JavaScript, it's just click.
Because there's a difference between like the method which lets you attach a click handler and then the name of the event itself. The name of the event is click, it's not onClick. But the method to attach a click event is called onClick.
And when we have done that, we will give a callback. And I think to make, I already have a function, so that's easy. Like this. And this should work. Yes. So there's something to be aware of here. This is a function you give, and actually, if you look at it, the function is used before it's declared, right? That's quite strange. So this is I don't know if you've been introduced to this, but it would be a good time to do it if you don't know what is happening here. Do you know exactly why this happens, or?
Yeah, but I mean, if you write the function before or after, it doesn't matter until you call it out.
Maybe I can do something to make it I can write a function in another way, right? I can make a function variable like this. I can say constant handle click equals, and then you can make a function here.
Arrow function even. Yeah.
Yeah, I could use an arrow function also.
Now we tell you that hand click is not defined.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing that is important here is there's a big difference between what you have here and what you have here. All functions of this type are hoisted to the top of. Have you heard of that? Hoisted to the top. So actually, you can think of it this way: the JavaScript the browser runs through all the code, finds these functions, and then puts it in the top. That's basically what you should imagine. But it doesn't do it with this one. This one is just executed when you get to it. So it could be really confusing to you. It is really confusing. So if you can...
It's like the hosting behavior is, you could pretty much say it's like very atypical even compared to other languages as well. You usually don't get the function hosting things. So just remember that it does happen. So if you are reading the code and you say, okay, but the function is declared later, why? Because this is like an exception in JavaScript. It again has, why? Because back in the old days, it was very, very useful that you could have a function declared in a later dependency and still be able to access that in a, earlier file or something. But now, you might as well ignore using this feature as such. You can use it, but just remember that this is something atypical. You don't get this feature with any other data type in JavaScript, only with function.
Okay, and actually I don't want to have this extra function. I don't need it. So what I'll do, I'll just take this, put it in here, and I have an anonymous function in here, and I can take things together like this. And now you mentioned the arrow functions, right? And there's two ways. This is where you actually have a difference of the arrow function and the normal function. And have you been introduced to the keyword this?
Yeah.
What have you used it for?
This is related to the element that you have called before in the same function.
Yeah. So if you actually go to the function thing, right? You might, if you delete this part, you might get again the VS Code documentation, which is
like this.
Yeah, just delete even this whole part, and just
like this.
Yeah, and remove the comma and make it again. I think it will give you the. Yeah. So you see it's going above the screen. Yeah. So you see listener with this, which would be the HTML element on which you are attaching the listener. And Yeah, and then you were saying about
Yeah.
arrow functions. Yeah.
And let's do it without an arrow function first, and then see what happens. But is it actually doesn't make any problems here, right?
It will.
It will.
It maybe it won't here, but let's see. Can check.
Let's check. Let's check if we get this. Okay.
Actually, it won't make a problem here, but if
Yeah.
we had declared it as a
As an object or something.
yeah, before then, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So here's not a problem. So sorry to cry wolf. So let's this. You have done this before, right?
Yeah.
And
Console log it.
yeah, just let's do this and then see if things work. And let's go on to make the counter. So we'll just have and it can't be const. It has to be a let because we'll change it. And we'll initialize it as 0. Then the first time, what do we need to console log the counter?
If
And afterwards we need to increment it like this. Okay? And if we just this keyword here, just to finish that, if you log that, you'll get a lot of information about what was clicked, and this can be very confusing.
But you can see like in the HTML that the button is highlighted because we have actually, this is the like JavaScript, how it accesses the DOM. It's just showing you that. You can see the the markup, but then JavaScript attaches a lot of properties to it as well, which you would be able to use much later.
Yeah. So I would like to see you do this same thing, and then we'll go on to another thing afterwards. Okay?
may I ask you something?
Yeah.
Could you make instead of button, just make quick test. Instead of the button in the index, a div, okay?
Yeah, you could.
No, without pushing, just console log the div on a div.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
work as well.
Do you want to make an on-click event on a div?
Yeah.
You can do that. You can
Yeah,
call.
because I just want to say because when you call the event, the listener event, you declare first of all the event will be the click, and then what happened after the click.
Yeah.
So executing the function. So when you call div, you're calling the ID, the button ID, the input. Button one, you're calling the button one.
Yeah.
That's what you're calling.
Yeah. It's just giving you the context of the function execution. So the usefulness of that is that
What? This?
so the thing is like because you can attach the same function to many listeners, right? And then once you're clicking all different buttons, how would you understand which button you're clicking? You can do that by looking at this.
Yeah.
And
It should be local. It can div it never been global.
We'll see. There are problems with it. We'll do that after this exercise.
Okay.
So
Yeah.